Hello, my name is Azure McMillan. I am in grade 10 English at Oak Bay High School. This video is for our Romeo and Juliet unit. Over the past few months, as a class, we've been reading Shakespeare's famous Romeo and Juliet alongside watching the 1996 movie version of the play. The gist of the play is that two teenagers fall deeply in love with each other, but due to an ancient family rivalry, they cannot be together. This is a timeless story written by the incredible William Shakespeare. It's probably one of the most famous plays in all of history. One of the most fascinating things about William Shakespeare is that although he wrote incredible plays and poems able to capture true human emotion, we really don't know a whole lot about his personal life. Everything we know about him is assumed based off of baptism records, marriage records, the birth certificates of his children, and, of course, the works of literary art he created. For someone as famous as he is, you'd think we'd know more about him. Shakespeare was born back in 1564, and he died in 1616. In his prime years, he wrote a total of 37 plays and 154 sonnets, which is pretty fantastic for an English writer. William, though assumed to be strictly a writer, also happened to be a great businessman. Proof in this is the building of his very own theatre in London, England, where his plays were performed regularly. The famous theatre was named the Globe, and above it was a flag depicting the god Atlas holding the world on his shoulders. The theatre's motto was "All the world is a playhouse," which seems appropriate. The plays Shakespeare wrote were categorized into three genres: comedies, tragedies, and political. Each time a play was set to be performed, a colored flag would be put up to tell the people which genre the play happened to be. A white flag meant a comedic play, a black flag meant a tragedy, and a red flag symbolized a political play. The theater itself was cylindrically shaped and lacking a roof, as natural light was necessary to watch the plays. Most attendees sat in front of the stage on the ground. These were the poorer people and were appropriately named groundlings and earthlings. The groundlings sat directly on the ground, while the earthlings sat on ratty cushions among them. The levels and chair seating in the walls of the theater were reserved for middle-class noblemen and women. The upper class of the congregation sat off to the side of the stage, nearly alongside the actors. Shakespeare was married to Anne Hathaway in 1542, and together they had 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls. Shakespeare was born and died in Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwickshire, England, but moved to London during his playwriting years. As stated before, there weren't many records of Shakespeare's personal life, but we do know these few details to be true. Early on in his career, he wrote the famous Romeo and Juliet, which we've been studying. The play, as stated before, is about 2 teenagers who fall deeply in love with one another, but cannot be together. As a part of our unit, we were told to choose a significant passage of the play to study up on. I chose mine from the beginning of the famous balcony scene, otherwise known as the scene where the 2 teenagers admit their love to one another. I chose this specific passage for its significance to the rest of the play, and how it addresses the theme of forbidden love. This scene begins a domino effect of unpredictable events that eventually end in the death of both protagonists. The 2 lovers enter this scene as barely acquaintances and exit as betrothed lovers. It all begins with Romeo sneaking onto Juliet's property in the night and reciting a monologue addressing his true love for her, but she does not hear him. Juliet then exits her room to her balcony and calls into the night for her Romeo. This is where the passage begins. She then proclaims that she would rather go against her father's name if it meant she could be with Romeo. She goes on by confirming that it is not the people in which the rivalry lives on, but rather it is only their family names that prevent them from being together. Her final words in the passage are, "And for thy name, which is no part of thee, take all myself." Pretty romantic, I'd say. This passage is crucial to the remainder of the play, because had she not said these words unknowingly to Romeo, he may have never been truly convinced that she loved him with all of her heart. In fact, the entire balcony scene may not even occurred. If that was the case, the beautiful tragedy of the play would have never had the chance to unfold. The 2 may never have been wed, and their suicide may have been completely avoided. The domino effects of this passage are endless. There would have been no story if this passage hadn't occurred. Shakespeare's timeless Romeo and Juliet is a fantastic story of love and tragedy that perfectly captures the true human emotion and conflict of the human race. Had Juliet not unknowingly confessed all love to Romeo, we wouldn't have this wonderful story to tell. Thank you.